The government is never going to tell people the truth about aliens, and there is a very simple reason for that, which is this. If they told us the truth about aliens, the question would be answered, and some people might have a hard time adjusting, and some people might just be relieved, and some people might even accept the truth gladly. But ultimately, they would get off that treadmill and they would go back to work and they would get back to their normal lives, and nothing much would change. Now, I haven't seen that new movie by Steven Spielberg, Disclosure Day. I've read a little bit about it, and so what it sounds like is that people go crazy and really question their faith and their reality, because the media and the government, the authorities disclose that extraterrestrials do exist. So that's what the gist of the movie looks like. It doesn't look very good to me. I'm not planning to go see it. But that's, and as a lot of YouTube commenters have noted, that's a very baby boomer type mentality of, oh, I saw it on the news, so it must be true. So if the information is big enough and an authority told me, then I have to believe it, and I have to question everything and maybe even abandon every long-held belief as if it's nothing. But in the digital age, and in a world where baby boomers are not the future at this point, that's just not realistic. And of course, if the government did officially disclose extraterrestrials being from other star systems or whatnot, there would be tons of content to be made. There would be a lot of these conspiracy videos being churned out, but they already are. It might would probably increase, but ultimately it would just fade into the background like everything else does. And consider a few things too. For as long as there has been video, we've been getting grainy, low resolution, just crappy footage of UFOs and extraterrestrial beings and such. And even now in the 2020s, when everyone has a high resolution instant camera on them at all times, we're still getting videos like this when we do get them. Whether it comes from individuals or the military, or some other source like that, it doesn't seem to matter. We're still getting supposed videos of UFOs and aliens that were apparently filmed on potatoes, where it looks like it's 480p or 240p or whatever that measurement was. And it is really not difficult to figure out that the government wants people to be on this treadmill of wondering about aliens and wondering about UFOs or UAPs like they call them now. I remember a few years ago, under the Biden presidency, that there were supposed UAPs in, I think it was New Jersey or something like that, and there were lights on them, but they were appearing at night, so your casual observer on the ground didn't know what they were, and no authorities had told them anything about it. And I think it was the president at the time, and some other parts of the government were saying, oh, we don't know, or we can't talk about it. They were basically playing it up to be much more mysterious than it was, and the reality turned out to be just drones, I think, and it was just really nothing. It was nothing interesting at all. But that got in the media for a little while, and that probably distracted from things that the media really actually should have been talking about, while all the time the UAPs were really just mundane drones. I know under Trump, he is, joked or teased several times that he wants UFO files disclosed. Seems like when there's a lot of files that really need to be released, that the government just really never likes to do that, because, we're just the public and everything. We don't really matter. And I don't think it would matter what kind of administration we had or what kind of president we had. They're just never going to tell the truth about it. And maybe they don't really know. I mean, maybe I kind of doubt it, but maybe they're just as confused as we are, or maybe the real explanation is just so different from, aliens from other planets that they wouldn't even know what to tell the public. I'm assuming there are some human beings on Earth who probably do know what the truth is, or they're very close or much closer than most people. But even if they could tell us things, they would be discredited immediately. And, it always seems like there's a whistleblower who comes out when maybe the questions start getting a little too heated or whatever. That reminds me of, I forget his name, but I think he was with the Air Force, and he came out a few years ago, and he was claiming to be a whistleblower that the U.S. government had non-human, non-man-made technology or spacecrafts or something like that. And then, of course, one of the jokes going around back then was, okay, you non-human, so what? Squirrels made this or cats made this? I mean, what do you mean? And the thing is, it was never meant to be answered. It was meant to be sensationalized. That was the whole point. It was meant to be mysterious. I think his name was like John Grishnell or something like that. I'm probably way off, but if anyone remembers that guy and kind of knows who I'm talking about, just drop that name in the comments, because I'm really drawing a blank. But anyway, it's meant to be a treadmill. It's meant to be a question that you can't get a real answer to. Now, it is, like I said, it is possible that the government knows. I mean, probably does know more than we do, but they may not really know. I find the kind of standard idea that these are biological creatures from another planet, another star system, maybe another galaxy, and they're just visiting here because we're just so darn interesting or whatever. I find that to be a little odd, because if you had that kind of space traversing power, then your civilization can use energy much better, much more efficiently, and much bigger, powerful sources than we have or probably could do for a very long time. So why come here? If you can do that, you don't need our resources. Why would you need to study humans in particular? And you definitely would not come thousands or millions of light years just to crash your ship in a desert in the US. That whole narrative to me always just seemed goofy. It didn't really make any sense if you think about it for more than 2 minutes. So I think if there is an ultimate truth to what UFOs and aliens are, I think it's probably something different. One idea that I think might be more plausible is that it's a psychological phenomenon, and I'm not really trying to lean in that direction with this channel. I just thought this would be an interesting topic to cover. But people have been seeing UFOs or aliens, quote unquote, for at least centuries, if not, well, really thousands of years, so millennia. And I mean, when I say that, they've been seeing, in my opinion, probably the same things, which I think may be psychologically based, but the way they interpreted them was dependent on the time they lived in. So you could look at some passages from the Bible, for example, or other ancient texts or older accounts, and there are chariots of fire in the sky. And there were accounts of basically what we would call UAPs today in, say, medieval Europe, or the late Roman Empire, or during Renaissance time in Europe, or something like that. There was and this one's pretty well documented, a supposed battle between UFO forces over I think it was a German town, about, I don't know, was it maybe 300 or 400 years ago? Maybe it was more, and I forgot the town. There have been there were paintings of it and such, but basically that one sounded a lot more like we would think of UFOs today. And I think wasn't it Constantine claimed to see the sign of the cross in the sky, and that's what helped him win the battle he was in, and then he converted to Christianity. Sounds a lot like a UFO in a lot of ways. And when you get to the 19th century, you had UFOs then, but people would report things like mysterious airships or stuff like hot air balloons or zeppelins, because that was the time they lived in. It was only around the early to mid 20th century that the concept of UFOs looking and appearing the way we think of them really got started. And, flying saucers, that wasn't a thing until I think it was the 1940s when some old Air Force pilots saw some during training or a mission or whatever. And one of the pilots described the things he saw as like discs that were being skipped across the water, and so the term flying saucer stuck. And then some mysterious craft or something appeared over Washington, D.C. I think that was the late 1940s or early 50s. And, now and there are different kinds, to be fair. I mean, there's not just, flying saucers, that's one sort of UFO archetype, but there's also the more oval-shaped ones. There's the triangle-shaped ones. There are ones that are just spherical. And, there are different kinds of aliens that are reported too. So it's not like that's just a singular type of thing that people see. But that's another thing that makes me wonder, could this be a psychological phenomenon? And if you go even deeper than that, there are some, say, supposed abductees who will say that their abductors were not malicious, that they were actually friendly, or they intended peace, and maybe they were just there for whatever enigmatic reason. But then you have some that it may seem malicious, but you don't really see the maliciousness in a lot of the stories, and you would kind of think that out of hand, right? So that's also something that makes me wonder if it's more of a psychological phenomenon than something in objective reality. But anyway, regardless of all that, the simple fact of the matter, in my opinion, is the government, the authorities, the media, world governments, no one is ever going to come out with the truth about what extraterrestrials are, what UFOs or UAPs are, because it would get people off that treadmill. It would take something away that the government can always take to the media and say, hey, start talking about this again, so that people will get distracted and confused. It would just take a tool out of their tool belt. So they would have no intention of doing that. So, yep, don't expect any official answers to or disclosures about any of this, I would say. And probably just have to do your own reading and research and thinking about this to try to come up with the best answer. So, if you like this video, let us know in the comments and add to the discussion. Do you have any different opinions or thoughts about this or experiences that you could share? And if you disagree and think that we will have an official disclosure day someday, let us know that too. So thanks for listening, and we will see you in the next one.